Gino's had a couple of weeks off, just due to personal circumstances between me and the owner. And he did have one ride yesterday. We lunged him a little, ended up just riding him in the halter. So today he's back in the Bosal. My videographer isn't available for tomorrow because I was half thinking about riding him in Spurs tomorrow. He knows to come off my legs, so I thought I'd try him in Spurs today. So you can get to see his first ride in Spurs and how he reacts to that. Spurs aren't that vicious, they just save me having to kick. And they're a little bit more, I actually like Spurs sometimes more than kicking because it's more articulate. Because kicking, you tend to just thump on them. And some horses will get, they'll get perturbed by that banging on their side. Whereas the spur, like as I carefully angle my heel up, I can just apply precisely more pressure or less pressure as I see fit. So for some horses, spurs are better than kicking, which is an interesting thing. Like I've had some horses that were sensitive and they didn't like being clubbed with a leg because the kicking was just too aggressive, and they actually preferred being spurred. Give you an idea of spurs, like I can rub it on my face, like it's not sharp, they're dull. The rowel is wide, it's wide this way. I'll probably do another video just quickly on spurs and what I look for and a few tips on spurs. But yeah, the rowel is it runs really easy. So before I hop on, and it's just because it's a new sensation physically, so usually before I hop on, I'll just run it over their side, just like that. And again, they're not electric and they're not razor blades, so it's just a wheel that runs across him, like there's no big deal to it. But occasionally you will get a horse who, because the sensation is different, they'll kind of get, oh my goodness, that's very different, and they'll get worried about it. So I just rub it on their side just to check that they'll be okay. And the other thing that'll upset some horses is not so much that you got a spur on and a spur is aggressive or tough, is just they can't cheat. Like you put a leg on and they know they should move off it, but they're still choosing when they want to do it rather than just doing it every time. And he's a little bit in that category. Like he'll move off my leg and my rein really well sometimes, and then other times he's a little bit like, oh, I'm just not feeling it, Wayne. It's like, well, you kind of need to feel it all the time and pay attention. So he selectively pays attention to it at times, which a lot of horses do, and that's usually when we go and put spurs on. But then they can get a little upset with like I said, when they lean into it, it's more intense and it's more precise than me kicking, and they can't cheat as much. So some horses will get upset by that fact. Not so much that the physical sensation is so horrible. They just get upset that they can't cheat on it. So usually one of the first things I'll do, which I kind of do with him every day anyway, is side pass. But we're at a standstill and I get to press and roll that spur into him a little, and he gets to feel it, and I get to judge his reaction to it. And again, we're not using spurs to help us make him go forward. It's more about getting him to steer and listen to my leg all the time. And sometimes it'll be good because it'll take the focus, his mental focus, off what the bosal's doing or the halter or the bridle or whatever I've got, and put his mental focus back on my leg and his side and what I'm asking him to do. And ultimately, of course, I do want to steer him with my legs and my reins and, you know, my neck rein to assist, or my supporting rein to assist the steering. And if they know where they should go as I apply more pressure, they should just step over, which he's kind of doing. And again, you know, at the moment, it's kind of suiting him to do it, so I'm not getting any big reaction. I might get more reaction later when he decides he wants to drift over to the end gate or some direction, and I press that spur in and it gets a bit more intense. I've also, funnily enough, had some horses that were very touch sensitive. You know, they were kind of flighty and hot and all that kind of stuff. And their first ride in Spurs, they went way better than you'd think, because what I was asking and the result was very clear, because like I was saying earlier, I can be a lot more articulate with a spur. Like I can apply, gradually apply more pressure and release pressure a lot more precisely with a spur than I can with kicking. But obviously I can ride quite well, and I've got good use of my legs and feet, and I know what my spurs are doing. A little inadvertent contact shouldn't bother my horse. So if I happen to touch him with them, he shouldn't freak out. The same as he shouldn't with leg. And he's choosing to jog on a little bit. I'm not too worried about that, because he can be a little lazy at times, so now he's getting a bit cranky about it. And that'll happen, like I said, he'll sort of hit a point where he's like, I'm not liking the fact that I can't cheat and ignore it. You know, we're kind of upping the mental pressure on what we're doing. Up until now, he's kind of been able to do a lot of things in his time and at his convenience, which is a good thing, you know, that they go through that stage. But obviously he's got to get to a point where he's got to just do it straight away when he's told, and a little less arguing. So we're doing that direct bend and counter bend that we've done in earlier videos. And I'm still not after precision. So we'll do some other videos on what I'd like in a precise direct bend and counter bend and all that kind of deal. At his stage, if he just bends to the left and moves his shoulder out a little, and then on this counter bend, he moves his nose to the outside and his shoulder to the inside a little, that's all I need. But that was kind of a point just there when I was counter bending. Sometimes when he doesn't feel like doing it, or he's a little resistant, he pushes onto the bosal and just goes forward. Now, because I can just tip my heel up and go, think about that, he's not pushing into that as much. So when he questions it, he was just running, he was going through the front door. And I just kind of took that focus back on my foot and his side, like step over off that leg pressure. Don't go forward, step off that leg pressure. I'm still not going to micromanage him too much. Like I said, this one we want a little direct bend to the inside and a counter bend. And yeah, when he gets a little pushy, I kind of poke him in the belly and it puts his focus back where it should be. Like, listen to my leg. My leg's telling you where to go. Don't be so concerned about your face. But yeah, he will sometimes get concerned about what's happening to his head and forget that my leg's doing something. And I say him, lots of horses do that. Oh. But when to put spurs on does vary from horse to horse. Like, I've had some horses that were very dull. Excuse me. And the very first lot of lateral movements I did, I went to spurs almost straight away. You know, like very quick. But there's not many of those horses. Most of them is his time frame. You've been riding a bit and they've got a good understanding. And I like them to know what they're supposed to do before I reinforce it, basically, with something, you know, more tougher than just my foot. So we'll just do some little turns on the hind quarter. Get him stepping across. And again, I don't really expect anything too precise. Just want him to have a go. And another thing that's important, like when he doesn't want to go forward, I'm not going to be spurring him to go forward. I'll take that lead rope and swat him on the butt the same as I have been. Now, sometimes the spurs, because we do ask with our legs for him to go forward, the spurs will give you more forward. But if your horse really doesn't want to go and you keep spurring him, there's a lot more chance they're going to buck or rear or get very upset by it. Spurs are really only to help your steering, not to give you extra speed. And the reason that, because a lot of people say, well, I get extra speed out of my horse. The reason you get extra speed is your horse still gets conditioned that there's leg pressure, they go forward, the leg pressure comes off. So leg pressure means go, right? Whereas people who've got educated horses, leg pressure means turn, bend, elevate. You know, it means a lot of things besides go forward. And he already has, you know, pretty good knowledge of a lot of those things. He knows that he's not associating that leg with just going forward. It is a job that I do with my leg, but it's one of many jobs that my legs are going to do. Whereas if the only thing you ever do with your leg is make your horse go forward, yeah, if you put spurs on your leg, make it more aggressive, you'll get more forward. And sometimes if your horse is, you know, tied into that, you'll get more forward as well. So I'm going to clock to him, and I'll do a video just especially on transitions too. I'm going to clock to him and verbally ask him to go. And you could say trot on or whatever you wanted. And then there'll be a physical reinforcement, which will be squeezing with my legs, and then maybe squeezing with my spurs a little, and then ultimately slapping him on the butt if I had to, which he already knows all those things. G'day, thank you so much for watching. If you could like, share, subscribe, turn on the notifications bell, that would be awesome. Thank you. Cheers. So real quickly, touching on transitions, there's a verbal request. In my case, it's clocking. You could say jog on, then my legs back it up. It's just like a stop. When I stop, I just sit down and say, whoa. I don't pull on his face straight away. I'm gonna ask him verbally or non, without any pressure. And then if he doesn't listen, then I might pull on his head. And if I ask him to go forward and he chooses not to go forward, eventually I'll use my leg to back that up. There we go. So he kind of waited for me to squeeze just a little bit, but it was only a little. So it was really cool. And because he's not a real touch sensitive, funky horse that way, and he knows what my leg means, we haven't had a lot of reaction to the spur because it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I've got to step it up a little bit. And it hasn't really bothered him too much. Oh. And although I kind of say on and off he's a little lazy, he is, but he is still quite happy to go to work. Like he doesn't argue about it that much. He's not super lazy. Anyway, we'll get him up into a canter. He might make a liar of me. It wouldn't be the first time a horse made a liar of me. All right. So we'll steer, shape up a little, steer a little, shape up a little. And like an old horse, when he doesn't want to shape up, when I squeeze him in the belly, oh. So he's a little bit stiff in his stop, like a little bit proppy in his stop, so I'm just going to bend a little bit after the stop and disengage his hip. So what I was starting to say is, like an older horse, when I start to bend him and he's a little heavy, I can start using my spur to help pick his belly up, pick his ribs up, and give me that a little easier. So through being able to work his belly more, I can be softer again on his face. And he still has to learn that connection as well. But as you can sort of see, it's all kind of progressing as time goes on. So to sort of bend him in, shape him up, give him a little bit of free time. Do the same again. I don't really want to hold him in there too long, especially on this side, because I need to work on getting him to flex, like lateral flexion to the left. So it's inside rein, and then a little bit of both reins. Oh. Which is the traditional way you should use a bosal or a hackamore or even a snaffle bit. Is traditionally there's a little bit of hold and get that inside flexion, and then your outside rein asks them to drop. And I think with a Bosal it's more important just because it works a little different. So get that inside flexion and then ask for vertical flexion. And sort of do it in that order, especially on that side where they might be a little bit heavy like this guy is. So he's done a very cool job. We could quit him there today, as he's done a very good job for his first ride in Spurs. It hasn't made a big difference to him. It's just made, probably made my life a bit easier because I haven't had to work quite so hard to get the same job done. He's pretty cool, so I'm just going to get him off the circle and get him around the arena a little bit more, which I'm sure he'll appreciate. And I'm just going to do a little bit of random steering and shaping up, more as it kind of comes to him too. I don't need him to do any predetermined pattern. More than anything, I just want him to travel nice and be happy and, you know, incorporate some more advanced techniques as his career goes on. Whoa. Like sometimes people will fight, well, I need him to make a square or a rectangle, and they'll fight him over it. And at this stage, there's no real need. Like I'd encourage him to go here, and he might drift in a little bit. I'll just go with it and make him soft, and I just want him to travel nice. And I'm still, again, everything's coming in just nice and steady. But to give you an idea of my higher standards, like I have trained an open national champion in reining in our country. So you can't win an open reining without having very precise control of your horse and all their body parts. Like I ultimately want to control everything at speed and going slow. You know, so my standards are pretty high, but I'm not trying to do it all at once. And going at the horse's pace is such an important thing. And it's funny when you do videos like this, there'll be a bunch of people going, oh, you went way too fast, and a bunch of other people going, you went way too slow. It's kind of how I see it, how this horse sees it. There's a lot of other horses that I wouldn't be this advanced on at this point. You know, I would have had to take way longer and do way more groundwork. There's not many I would have gone much faster though, because I just don't like to, when in doubt, I usually go slower. It was like even today, I was going to do one more day without Spurs, but I thought it probably wouldn't hurt him, and circumstances were just that way that today was the day to do it. But yeah, if I'm not sure, I usually wait a little bit. But in the end, you know, you end up with that horse who's super confident that you've always got his best interests at heart, and he'll start to trust you and do things for you that other horses won't. Because ultimately I want to create a really high standard horse who's happy to do his job. Not a really high standard horse who's scared to do the wrong thing. I want to create a happy horse who loves his job, who wants to go to work, and he loves doing what I'm doing. And I've put him to it in such a way he gets really advanced, and he's still happy to do it. He's not scared of not doing it. Because that horse will do the job, but he won't be happy doing the job. That horse can be real competitive too. He's still not happy doing his job. Whoa. And he's also given some nice little examples when we're stopping of all I really want him to do is stay soft up front. I don't pull on him, I'm just trying to frame him up. And then they'll start using their hindquarter if they have any desire to do it. Anyway, he's done a great job today, so we might quit him there. And just like I did for him, make sure you give him a rub at the end, especially around the ears. I kind of love that because he's doing the best job he can with the human he got stuck with. See you in the next one. Hey everyone, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I'd just like to highlight some ways that you can support the channel a little bit more that are completely free. Like the video, subscribe, please leave a comment whether you like it or you don't like it. Either comment's welcome. And that just supports the YouTube algorithm and helps the channel grow, which enables me to make more videos, more contact, and help more people. If you do want to take it a step further, you can join on patreon.com, and that's $5 a month, which is, as we know, less than a cup of coffee nowadays. Thank you very much again, and keep watching. Cheers. Bye.